knock out some odds and ends today. As you all know, we're getting really close with this build, and I haven't tapped into the wiring situation yet, but I figured this would be a start of just kind of assessing the situation, because an ignition's really simple, and especially because it's like basically the same ignition that was already in there. So I just wanted to see like kind of how that was wired and what wires were going where and what was even going on under there, because I haven't really, as long as I've had this car and as long as I've been working on it, I never really checked out the wiring situation, because that was like the last thing on my mind, you know. I just wanted to save it from, you know, returning back to the earth because that's where it was at when I got it. It was very rotted, as you know. So just kind of messed around with this ignition, put the new one in, and it's very self-explanatory. It comes with directions, and I didn't really even need the directions because, like I said, it was the same setup as the old one, so I just hooked it up the same way that one was hooked up, and that was that. But it's kind of cool actually, because this car didn't come with keys. It never had a key, so like I can't really lock the doors or anything. It doesn't really matter because it's a gasser, but I didn't have like a, you know, I have all my keys. I have the 58 keys, I have my Jeep keys, all my other keys, my truck keys, everything, and I never had keys for this, so it's kind of cool to actually have a key for this car, even if it's not running yet, but it has its own hanger. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to actually start it for real here soon enough, but the wiring is a mess, and I noticed that there aren't any fuses, like there's not a fuse panel or anything like that, so that's going to be real fun. And I just hooked up that, I didn't hook it up, but I just put the turn signal on there. That'll be hooked up, and I loaded up all the tires for the 58 and for the rear tires for the 48, because I decided that I wanted to get the rear tires put on finally. And you can see they're nice and beefy. I mean, they're not huge, they're not as wide as the Hoosiers. I mean, those tires were like 14 inches wide, and though I loved the way they looked, they didn't really fit on those rims. They were really pushing it. So these ones are about 11 inches wide, and I think it looks better, to be honest. And these are street, you know, they're not dry rotted, they're brand spanking new, and I can trust them on the street, and there's plenty of tread to burn off. Not that I'm gonna ever do a burnout in this thing, but you know, I'll just casually drive it around. So, you know, there's just these last little things. If I wanted to move and stop, you know, I need to have inflated tires on it, and those Hoosiers only held air for about an hour, and then they would go flat, which that was fine. I basically bought them for the rims, you know. I just wanted these rims because they were wide rims, they were deep dish, and they kind of match the Kragers, even though they don't. But if you squint and look at it, they kind of do. They're close enough for me. I mean, a lot of gassers I see, the tires don't, or the rims don't match at all. You know, these are at least really, really close. You'd have to really walk up on them to notice that they're not the same. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys are sick of watching me put tires on and off. I mean, I put so many tires on and off of this car, and I take the axle out so many different times, but I figured that's part of this video, you know, is the brand new tires. So one last time here, and hopefully I never have to take the wheels off or the axle off. Hopefully this is the last time. But you know, they're nice and beefy, and obviously that's before it was settled. You know, I had it lift it up, so I have to bounce around in the trunk a couple times and sit on the trunk to make it settle and make the rear end go down a little bit. But that's settled. That looks a lot better. I'm totally cool with that look. It's not really, you know, vintage. I could get some Mickey Thompsons or some slicks, but like I'm gonna actually be driving this on the street, so that'll work out. And then, you know, another thing I really wanted to knock out, one of the things on the list, is running the fuel line. And, you know, of course, I had to run it from the fuel rail that are up coming out of the carburetors, you know, down into the fuel pump. I hadn't done any of that yet. Like all that stuff needed to be done. So that was a big, you know, and as simple as it is, you know, it was pretty complicated, because not complicated to do. It takes me about 3 minutes, but it was complicated to buy all the fittings, because I had to buy a specific 90 degree coming off of the fuel rail that was like a certain company. You know, it was Evil whatever. That's the brand name, Evil something. But you know, those of you that are familiar with, you know, cars, you probably know what I'm talking about. But it was the only 90 degree that I could find in that size that I had to get it, so I had to order that. And then, you know, 8mm hose, you know, going down to a 3/8, you know, insert, and right there. So I mean, as simple as it is a hookup, it takes 2 minutes. It's just the parts I had to wait for them to come and everything like that. And I still haven't ran the fuel line, you know, to the trunk, to the fuel cell, which is a whole other, you know, situation. But I needed to mount the I still haven't mounted the fuel cell, so here it is. And it's just really simple, you know. And after tightening this down, like you'll see, you can't really tell what I'm doing, but I really push on it, and it like moves the entire car. Like that thing is down so tight, it's not going anywhere. But I couldn't, you know, to be honest, after I welded this pipe in the trunk, I was like, how am I going to go about this? I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about it. I thought about building like a tray out of like angle iron for it to sit in, and then strap it to that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, dude, I'll just strap it down with self tappers. Like it's not going to go anywhere. And if it does, yeah, like I'm moving the whole car by this. Like I'm really, like it's in there. It's not moving at all. And the next step obviously was to do the fuel rail, but the fuel line, not the fuel rail. Stuff was really stiff. You know, it wasn't the it's not copper nickel. It's like, I don't even remember what type it was, but it's the stiffer kind. But I'm totally cool with that. I don't want fuel line to be too soft. You know, I don't want it to, like, you know, if a stone hits it, for it to get a huge kink in it. You know, this stuff's a lot tougher, and it's really not that hard to work with. There's the old one. Now, the old one really wasn't, just like the brake lines, it wasn't too bad, but it did have one decent kink in it, and I almost could have just left it, because it was already there. It wasn't hooked up to the fuel cell, obviously, but it was in there. Like it was ran back to where it belonged. And so this was kind of a process, because I had to unravel so much, and I ran it up in between the body mounts, and so it's like up really high, and to run it back, you know, the way I wanted it, it was kind of hard to do it from where I'm at, but at the same time it wasn't hard. Like this literally took me 5 minutes. mean, this is really fun, you know, like running new brake lines and running new fuel lines in a gasser is really fun. You know, the 58, I need to, you know, separate the brake lines so that I have separate front and rear in a new master cylinder. And like just doing that, you know, that car is so tight and it's so heavy. Like I hate being underneath it, and I hate you can't access everything as easily as you can with this car, you know. And this car being so high off the ground, I can just crawl right underneath it, and it's absolutely no problem. Yeah, like I have to keep getting back underneath it just to like guide it in between like the next body mount. Yeah, I mean this couldn't have been any easier. I mean, I knew that this wasn't going to be a hard situation here. I just had to wait for it to come in the mail, or else this would have been done, you know, a long time ago. The hardware store where I got all my other brake line, where I got all the brake lines and everything, they didn't have fuel line that was 3/8. It only went up to like a quarter, and you know, I'm going to be running about 500 horsepower, 450 to 500. You know, I don't know exactly. I just know that it's going to be, it's just more than what you know. It calls for 3/8 gas line. I hate to say like, yeah, it's going to be 500, 600 or so, you know, because I don't really know, and I'll probably never get it dynoed, so I'm not going to talk like I know exactly what it is, because I don't. As long as it goes and stops, it has a little bit of power, I'll be happy. If I was taking this to the drag strip, it would probably be a big block, and it would probably have a big old blower on it. Who knows? It would be like a $20,000 engine, as opposed to a $7,000 engine. So yeah, I basically ran it the same way that the other. I ran basically the same route as the other one, and it worked out. I thought about running it on the inside of the car. I was really close to doing it that way, but I didn't end up doing it because I didn't want it to be visible. Like if I not done the carpet yet, I might have done it that way, but it was just so simple to do it the way I did it, so I just went ahead. So there's pretty much the completed product there. Super easy. And I put the front on. This front end gets taken on and off pretty much every day. And it's super annoying. Every time, now with the engine put together and everything, it was kind of sketchy. And with the brake and fuel lines there, I was worried about pinching something. But it worked out. So wiring coming up. So stay tuned.